The savannah is never truly silent. It breathes in whispers, the rustle of dry grass, the distant call of a hunting lion, the murmurs of an ancient wind that carries the wisdom of those who walked this land long before time had a name. But on this night, something was different. An old man named Kato stood alone under the vast African sky, his weathered face illuminated by the silver glow of the full moon. He was a tracker, a man who understood the rhythm of the wild better than the beat of his own heart. Yet tonight, he felt something he could not explain. The animals had vanished. No insects hummed, no hyenas laughed, no distant drum of hooves against the earth. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath. Then, from the darkness, came a sound, a deep, guttural growl. Not of threat, but of something calling. Kato tightened his grip on his walking staff. He had heard the old stories, the ones whispered around village fires. The spirits of the savannah did not show themselves without reason, and when they did, a man's fate was never his own. Kato had spent his entire life reading the land. He could track a lion's path by the curve of a single broken blade of grass. He could smell rain before it touched the earth. But there was no sign of life here tonight, only the eerie silence and the unseen force pulling him forward. His people had long believed in the Roho Savannah, the spirit of the savannah, a guardian force that watched over man and beast alike. Some said it appeared only to those who had lost their way, offering wisdom or warning. Others claimed it tested a man's heart, forcing him to confront his greatest fears. Kato was not a man of superstition. He had spent decades tracking poachers, tending to wounded animals, and watching the land shrink under the weight of men who did not respect it. He knew the real dangers of the world. Yet, as he stepped forward, he felt something beyond instinct, an unshakable pull, as if the earth itself had a hand on his shoulder. And then he saw it, a pair of glowing amber eyes, watching from the darkness. He exhaled slowly. A lion, a massive one. But something was wrong. The animal stood still, unnaturally so, as if waiting. Then it spoke. "Kato," the voice rumbled, deep as thunder rolling over distant hills. His heart pounded. No living thing should have known his name. And yet, here it was. Kato's breath hitched in his throat. He had spent a lifetime tracking lions, watching them, understanding them. But never, not in all his years, had one spoken his name. The great beast stepped forward, its golden mane shimmering under the moonlight. Its eyes burned with something beyond the wild, something ancient. Kato should have run, should have reached for his knife. But his feet stayed rooted to the earth, bound by an unseen force. "You do not fear me." The lion's voice was not spoken in words, yet Kato understood it as if the sound was rising from the marrow of his bones. His lips parted, but no sound came. Fear? No, this was something else. Something deeper. The lion's gaze bore into him. "You have spent your life watching the savannah, but have you truly seen it?" Kato frowned. He had walked every path, known every sound, tracked every creature. Of course, he had seen it. The lion blinked slowly. "Then why does the land suffer?" Kato's fingers clenched around his staff. He had seen the destruction, the greed of men who did not belong to the land but sought to own it. Poachers, deforestation, villages expanding beyond their means. He had fought against it, yet it had never been enough. "That is not my burden to bear alone," he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. The lion rumbled, a sound that was neither anger nor agreement. "And yet, you are here." The wind stirred, whispering through the grass, carrying a scent Kato recognized all too well: smoke, fire, the unmistakable stench of death. "Come," the lion said. "There is something you must see." And with that, the great beast turned, disappearing into the darkness. Kato had no choice. He followed. Kato followed the lion through the tall, whispering grass. The night air was thick with something unspoken, a weight pressing against his chest, urging him forward yet warning him all the same. The scent of smoke grew stronger. Soon, an orange glow flickered on the horizon. Fire! Not the cleansing kind that the Savannah sometimes needed, but something unnatural, reckless. As they crested a small hill, the scene below stole Kato's breath. A vast stretch of land lay in ruin. Trees burned, their skeletal remains clawing at the sky. The ground was scarred with deep tire tracks, evidence of heavy machines that had no place in the wild. And there, in the distance, lay the broken bodies of animals: elephants, antelope, even a rhino, left to rot, their tusks and horns stripped away. Kato's hands trembled. He had seen the damage of poachers before, but never like this. This was not just greed. This was devastation. The lion stopped at the edge of the hill, its gaze locked onto the destruction. "The land remembers," it said, "and it suffers." Kato clenched his jaw. "I have fought against this. I have warned the people. But they do not listen." The lion turned to him. "Because they do not see." Kato's mind raced. How many times had he spoken of balance, of respect for the land? How many times had his words fallen on deaf ears? He was just one man against the weight of a world that did not care. But the lion was not done. It stepped closer, eyes glowing like embers. "If they will not listen, then show them." Kato frowned. "How?" The lion did not answer with words. Instead, it stepped forward, toward Kato, toward the man who had spent his life protecting the land in silence. And as it did, something impossible happened. The ground trembled. The wind howled. The very air around him seemed to pulse. Kato gasped as his vision blurred, his body tingling with something foreign, something powerful. Then, all at once, he saw, not with his eyes, but with something deeper. He felt the heartbeat of the earth, the cries of the fallen, the slow, aching breath of a land struggling to survive. He was no longer just a man standing on the savannah. He was part of it. And now, he understood. Kato staggered as the vision consumed him. His senses stretched beyond their limits. He could feel the ancient roots beneath his feet, hear the silent cries of creatures lost to greed, taste the dust of a land choking under the weight of destruction. The lion stood before him, unchanged yet different. It was no longer just a beast, but something more, a force, a guardian, a spirit bound to the land itself. "Now you see," the lion rumbled. Kato fell to his knees, overwhelmed. What am I supposed to do?" His voice was barely above a whisper. The lion took a step forward, its gaze unrelenting. "You have spent your life tracking men. Now, you must lead them." Kato's heart pounded. He had fought poachers, warned villages, pleaded with those who did not listen. What more could he do? He was just a man. "You are more than that now." The words weren't just spoken. They resonated through him, settling deep in his bones. He clenched his fists, the energy of the land still thrumming inside him. He could do more. He could show them what he had seen, make them understand. But how? The lion took another step forward, its eyes burning brighter than before. The wind howled, carrying its final words like an oath. Rise, Kato. Become the voice of the savannah. The moment shattered. The world snapped back into focus. The fire was gone. The bodies, the destruction, all vanished like a fading nightmare. Kato stood alone in the vast, untouched wilderness. Except for one thing. The lion's paw prints remained, glowing faintly in the moonlight, leading away into the unknown. A path. A choice. Kato took a breath, his decision made. And then, with steady steps, he followed. Kato followed the glowing paw prints, his heartbeat steady, his purpose clear. The wind had changed. It no longer whispered warnings, but carried something else. A message. A call to action. As he walked, the world around him seemed different. The stars above burned brighter. The ground beneath him felt alive, pulsing with an energy he had never noticed before. He was not just moving through the savannah, he was part of it. Then, the paw prints stopped. Kato lifted his gaze. Ahead, at the edge of the tall grass, stood a village. Fires flickered in the distance, the faint hum of voices drifting through the night air. Men. They were the ones who had forgotten, the ones who needed to see. He took another step forward, but before he could move closer, a deep, familiar sound echoed behind him. A growl. Kato turned slowly. The lion was there, just beyond the reach of the firelight, its golden eyes locked onto his. Silent, watchful, waiting. Kato didn't need words to understand. This was only the beginning. The spirit of the savannah had chosen him, and now it was time to see if the world was ready to listen.